defend for themselves, he chose to escort them back, all at his expense. And he easily could have pulled rank, went over to the Mississippi, got a nice boat ride back up to Tennessee. He chose not to. He chose to escort his own men back, and he would pay for the whole thing himself. Now, it was not an easy trek, and during the trek back, many of his men were either sick or hurt or in bad physical shape in general, and he chose to use his own horse to pack any sick men back, which meant he walked almost the entire route through very rugged country and a very hot climate. So he didn't even ride his horse back most of the 300 miles. He used his horse to transport these sick, hurt, and physically people in bad shape back on his own horse. He almost walked the whole route. Well, during that time back, one of his soldiers who admired him made the comment that Jackson was tough as hickory. And hickory was the toughest wood that particular soldier knew of at the time. He felt that the toughest wood there was hickory. He made a comment that he said Jackson was as tough as hickory, which was the toughest wood that the young man knew about at the time. And as a result of that, he got the nickname Old Hickory by his supporters, which stuck with him the rest of his life as a positive nickname. So one of the soldiers on that militia trip back said he was as tough as hickory, and he received the nickname Old Hickory by his supporters, and it was a nickname that stuck with him the rest of his life. So that tells you a little bit about Jackson the man. You think he's a pretty fair person? You think he's for the common individual? You think he's Mr. Politics? Okay, he's going to break the mold on politicians. Okay, that'll take us to our next subtopic we'll tackle, and that's General Jackson, Indian fighter. Now, there is a large population of Indians who populated the southeast section of the United States, right in this area here. Southeast section of the United States. There were quite a few Indians that were occupying that area. And one band of Creek Indians that were on a rampage were the Red Stick Indians. And then what they were is they were a branch of the Creek Indians, and they were radical Indians who were not willing to succumb to what? Well, the white man's command or anything. Okay? So Jackson set his eyes on these Red Stick Indians. And they were a band of radical Creek Indians who were on the rampage in southeastern United States. What were they battling? What were these Red Sticks pissed off about? What were they battling? White encroachment. Very well. White encroachment. They were fighting back against white encroachment. They wanted to control their lands. They didn't want white people encroaching on what they considered their lands. This is going to be the start of a great story I'm going to give you in the passing weeks on Native Americans. This is kind of where the whole thing comes about. Okay? So these Indians were willing actually to fight to the death, these Red Stick Indians, to control their lands and battle this white encroachment. Now, many of the Creek tribe, this was just a branch of the Creek tribe, the Red Stick, most of the Creek tribe had decided to accept the white ways. Many even married white men. They were interracially married, which really caused a split in the Creek tribe. So that, not so much because they married white men, it was apart, but because they decided to adhere to the white man's ways, the Creek tribe was split. You've got those that are radical, known as the Red Stick Indians, and then you've got those that have succumbed to white ways. Now, the leader of the radical Red Sticks was William Weatherford. Ironically, he was a mixed breed himself. William Weatherford. You might think that by the name, wouldn't you? Now, even though he was the leader of the radical Red Sticks, William Weatherford was 7/8 Scottish and 1/8 Creek. So he was very Had very little Creek blood in it. But he was the leader of the Red Sticks. Thus the name William Weatherford, which doesn't sound very Native American, does it? Okay, because he's 7/8 Scottish. Well, he didn't like the white man name, so he was better known to the Red Sticks as Red Eagle, which was his warrior name. So he didn't go by William Weatherford among the Red Stick Radical Creek Indians. He went by his warrior name, which was Red Eagle. Well, in August of 1813, $550 people, white, mixed, and Creek, were seeking protection from the Red Sticks at Fort Mims in present-day Alabama. In August of 1813, 500 people, which included white, mixed, and Creek Indians, were seeking protection from the Red Sticks at a fort called Fort Mims in present-day Alabama.
How many?
550. Of those 550, 300 were white. Now, among those 300 white people were 175 members of the militia. So you have 300 white people, 175 are militia, and 125 are civilians. Okay, but they're all white. The other 250 of the 550 were either mixed blood or Creek Indians. So that was the population of the 550 people that were seeking protection from the Red Sticks at Fort Mims in present-day Alabama. Of the 550 people, 300 were white, and 175 of the white were militia, and 125 were civilians, and the other 250 people were mixed and Creek Indians. Now think about this a little bit. There was an attack on the fort on August 30th, 1813. Who attacked? Red Sticks. And this event got back to the media back east as a, quote, massacre of whites by Indians. It went back as a massacre of whites by Indians. Who were the Indians that massacred? The Red Sticks. So it went back in the media as the massacre of whites by Indians. What were most of the people killed in actuality? Well, either Creek Indians or mixed. So really, this was a civil war, right? Between the Red Stick Indians. They weren't there to kill whites and militia. They were there to kill what? Creeks and mixed people who they thought was pathetic that they succumbed to what? The white way of life. Okay? Well, when this happened, the point being, when this event happened, General Jackson was called to duty with his Tennessee militia. And they were ordered to go to Alabama to defeat who? The Red Sticks. Because the word got out that a bunch of white people got massacred, which wasn't true. So that's what brings Jackson, the Indian fighter, to Alabama, is this event that happens at Fort Mims, because the word out there is a bunch of Indians killed a bunch of whites, which really wasn't true, and yet basically it's a civil war. And you're going to find out through the time I talk to you about Native Americans throughout this year about how many falsehoods get out there about this type of thing. So anyway, Jackson is ordered to go there. Now, Jackson's first battle with the Red Sticks in Alabama results in the killing of between 400 and 500 enemy. So between 400 and 500 Red Sticks were killed by Jackson and the Tennessee militia during his initial response to Fort Mims. So Jackson's first battle with the Red Sticks resulted in the killing of between 400 and 500 enemy Red Sticks, while he lost only a very few of his men, hardly any. So he got in there and got after it. Now this is kind of interesting. After the battle, guess what they found alive among the dead? What? No. What? A baby. A baby. A baby was found alive among the dead. And when the baby was found, who did they bring the baby to, wondering what to do with it? Jackson. And what did Jackson do, Blaine? You know that story? Well, that's a hell of a guess. He what? He did. He adopted the child. He took the boy and adopted him and sent him back to where? Nashville, Tennessee, where the what was? Plantation. So he took the Indian boy, adopted him, sent him back to Nashville, and they raised the child until the boy died at the age of 15 of tuberculosis. So that's one thing Jackson's supporters will say when they talk about how awful he was to Indians. Well, you know, he did adopt an Indian boy and raised him. I mean, that's kind of one thing they use to try to support how he treated Indians, which was poorly. But anyway, Jackson was presented with this baby after this battle with the Red Sticks. He made the decision to adopt the boy, sent him back to Nashville with Rachel, and Jackson and his wife raised that child until he died at the age of 15 of tuberculosis. Well, he fought for months against the Red Sticks. This wasn't one battle and it was over. The Red Sticks were going to fight to the death to protect their land and protect white encroachment. So after months of fighting, Jackson and his Tennessee militia ready themselves for a final conflict with these radical Red Stick Indians. Okay, so they fight back and forth for months. And it gets to the point where Jackson's going to make a final effort to destroy them once and for all. And we'll tell you about that battle tomorrow, what happened. Okay? So we're going to have one final battle with the Red Sticks and Jackson. All right. You guys are awesome. Isn't this a pretty good story? Yeah.